Asked about the $120,000 year-over-year increase in housing prices, the top economist for the Real Estate Association said, "This is the biggest gain of all time. And certainly in dollars, it is far larger than anything that has ever happened." But why? Can't blame supply chains. Land doesn't have supply chains. Can't blame COVID. Almost all the houses in Canada were built before COVID happened. In fact, the things that drive house prices, wages, immigration, and GDP, are all down. So if the underlying means with which to buy housing are all down, why is it that real estate prices are up by record amounts?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've been clear. Housing affordability and home ownership are priorities for this government. We will help municipalities build more and better homes faster with programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund. We'll also help families buy their first home sooner with a more flexible first-time homebuyers incentive and a new rent-to-own program, and by reducing housing closing costs. Yesterday's update includes our plan to implement a national tax on non-resident, non-Canadian-owned residential real estate in Canada, and we will keep being there to have Canadians' backs as they deal with the rising cost of housing.
The member for Carleton.
The question is, why did housing prices go up so much with wages, GDP, and immigration down, and with all of the housing supply being right here in Canada, not linked to a so-called global supply chain? What is causing this eye-popping record increase in the cost of owning a house? Well, it just so happens that prices started rising right when this government began printing $400 billion of new cash into the financial system, $200 billion of which went into increased mortgage lending, with the investor class getting the preponderance of that new money. Why did this Prime Minister give so much to the have-yachts and take from the have-nots?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Every Canadian deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. That's why in 2017, we moved forward with the National Housing Strategy. Since 2015, our government has supported the creation of nearly 100,000 new units, repaired over 300,000 more across all housing programs, and helped more families get the housing they need. Supporting families through programs like the Rapid Housing Initiative, the First-Time Homebuyers Incentive, and the Canada Housing Benefit are continuing to help Canadians, but those are all programs that the Conservative Party voted against.
Member for Carleton.
Because they all failed. The proof is in the pudding. Housing prices now are higher than ever before, $720,000 for the average house, not a fancy mansion like the Prime Minister inherited or the one taxpayers pay to house him in. An average house costs $1 million in Canada's biggest city. And this is broadening the gap between rich and poor. He can't blame the rest of the world for the problem that is happening here at home. So why exactly does Canada have the world's second biggest housing bubble?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
While Conservatives continue to focus personal attacks on me, we're going to stay focused on Canadians. We will continue to invest in housing. We will continue to be there for solutions for Canadians. Indeed, we'll take no lessons from Conservatives when it comes to housing, because the Harper government played no leadership role on housing, and their plan in the last election on housing was to give tax breaks to wealthy landlords selling their buildings. That made no sense.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
No, what makes sense to him is to give cheap debt to investors to buy their buildings, because investors have doubled the amount they've been able to borrow on the cheap because of this Prime Minister's money printing. I'm sorry that the Prime Minister took my question personally, but the 30-year-olds who will be celebrating Christmas in their parents' home are taking that personally as well. They can't afford a house for themselves because this Prime Minister's policies have inflated those costs out of existence. So, simple question. Does Canada have a housing bubble, or is it just inflation?